Okay, so you're getting some handouts, and now we're going to look at the keeping the people. So now you found the right people, but now they leave. So we're going to talk a little bit, and I know it's an issue today, is the generational differences. It's huge, and you know what? I really thought it was going to get less and less over the years, but it's different. So we're going to look at the generational differences, definitely. We're going to look at what employees in Alberta had said they want, and how to make sure they're satisfied and be able to retain them. So Curly, what do you think? How long do people tend to stay in their jobs today? What are you guys seeing in your companies?
2 to 5.
2 to 5?
We're 10 plus.
You're 10 plus. Now, what about your new hires though?
The newest one is 4.5.
Okay, good.
We have one going on forever, and not new.
Okay. People in bureaucracy stay forever, okay. But there's a lot of movement within, sometimes in the organizations, right? Or not in yours? No, neither of yours, okay. So is anybody finding a shorter amount of stay time with the younger generation? Yeah, it tends to, what we're seeing on resumes is 2 to 3 years turnover. And I don't know if it's for any particular reason other than they're maybe climbing or growing or they see it differently. But I don't know that we will see the 50-year job anymore for people to stay in it that long. It's definitely different.
It goes both ways, though, too. The employees nowadays are not, it's just not that same relationship it used to be.
With the managers or
Managers and loyalty is just not what it used to be.
loyalty, yeah. They see it different though. Yeah, and now we're going to talk about those generations. So the turnover, Len talked about the expensiveness of a turnover, and just retraining and getting that rolling again can be really difficult. So we want to try to keep that down. So one of the things I've given you is a questionnaire that I actually handed out to the staff yesterday before I left. So in that pile of stuff, you have a questionnaire of the criteria. Did you hand those out? Oh, she's just going to hand them out now. Okay, I was thinking, I don't think they have them. So I'll go through this first. So yesterday, as I was printing them off, I thought, you know what? I want to know if this is something that my staff feels is important to them, or what things feel important to them. So I just handed it out quickly. It's really quick. It is the last one. Ooh. So 12 criteria of great workplace. So basically what you do with this is you have the staff fill it out. And these are the things that they said they have wanted in a survey. So, does everybody have it? Is there extra there? I'll take one. Oh no, not this. Those other ones. I got that. There are extras of those. So what I did with our staff, I took out number 3. I told them they couldn't pick to sit on the fence and feel safe. So it's pretty basic. And you know, when I say that, it's interesting. I know what is expected of me at work. Sometimes people don't know. And I know for us, when we first hire, it's pretty confusing. So if we gave our new employee this, I would say in a month, I think they would be pretty confused yet that they don't know. So it's something that takes time. So this is just a little quick sheet that to me was really easy to tally up to see where people were at, and maybe open a discussion to what we would need to do and what's important for them to stay with our organizations, because we don't want to be recruiting. So that health, that safe place, trustworthy management, knowing management has your back. And again, prior to going into my career at 30, I did not have a good work history. It was having good managers that enabled me to stay in a job for 15 years. That was amazing. I mean, and when I left the job after 15 years, I stayed as a contractor in that company. So I'd never done anything that long, but having that manager that had my back, that allowed me to grow, allowed me to flourish, try new things, that's what helped me retain my job. Having a good balance between work and personal life, job security. What do you guys consider job security? Because we get asked, people tell us all the time they want job security. What is job security? Is there job security? Not really, is there? I generally, in our business, tell people to keep learning. I think that's one way to ensure that you're going to have some job security.
I think for people nowadays, job security just comes down to not living with the fear of losing your job at any moment.
Right.
Right? It's not what it was 20 years ago, but I know people who work in jobs where they've heard whispers and rumors and things like that, and they're literally waiting for the accident day, and the anxiety that causes can make you sick.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's what it really comes down to these days. It's not knowing I'm going to have my job for 20 years, but it's knowing I'm still going to have my job next week.
Yeah, I would agree. That's probably a really good analogy of what it looked like today. So yeah, it's very different than it was. I mean, companies fold, change very quickly. On the other end, they want that good pay, and that's really changed again and continues to, and a sense of pride and accomplishment. So again, it's up to you if you want to use that with your employees and have them fill that out. So let's look at the generational differences, and you guys have a handout on this. So have generational differences in values and attitudes had an impact on your workforce? So we need to look at the differences. I know that Pam, you'd gone somewhere and they talked about the short amount of times that people are gonna stay in a company now versus, and that was really a paradigm shift for you. Could you share that quickly, just?
Well, I mean, I guess there's the different generations, the X's and the Y's and baby boomers and all of those things. I think there's a few factors. One is they're saying that people are planning to stay about 2 years. That's about it for the younger generation. But that's a two-way street because a lot of companies are no longer wanting people or offering more. The security isn't there. The other thing that I don't know how they factored, maybe somebody else knows how they factored in the fact that these are young people who are moving through jobs. I counted up, I was on one company for 27 years, and yet I've had 19 different jobs in my life. So how does that work? So when I was young, I was moving, either within the organization or different organizations. So the fact that people are young and learning and moving is a good thing. It means there's going to be a lot of turnover there.
Right.
But what I'm seeing in the difference in this younger generation is a different attitude about what work means in people's lives. And I think that's the huge thing. So as an employer, one of the things when we offer people flexibility and the fact that I raised 5 kids. If one of my kids was sick, that was just too darn bad for them. I better have a good backup system. Nowadays, if you tell an employee that that's the case, they'll probably be out of there before you know it. Because the expectations of what people bring to and have and want are quite different. But I think the fact that we're having these discussions is important when you look at how you're hiring. And if you come with these old school ways of thinking and expect everybody's going to fall in, and then we say, what's wrong with these young people? Well, nothing, they're young. You know, we were young too once.
Yeah, and I think we got caught in that. When we were looking to hire somebody, we fell into that trap. We ideally want to hire somebody who's going to stay there, well, for me, for the next 10 years, 10, 15 years. That's my ideal hire. That's not always possible. So, I mean, we actually hired somebody out of the oil field and brought him into our office, and he's doing good, and he works there, but we changed our thinking that we didn't expect that he might be there 15 years or not. It's okay if he is, but I think we're more accepting that he might not be. We can't find or pinpoint, is this person going to stay 15 years? So there's a lot of things that changed with the younger generation though. And it's the work balance life is huge. There's actually a few things, and I'm going to go through them all. I'll go through the strategies, and then if we have time, we'll do these worksheets, because I want you guys to also be in groups where you think alike. So when we look at strategy one, it's why they leave and why they stay. So who here is doing exit interviews when people leave? Okay, so is it a consistent reason why people are leaving? Or is it different?
We don't have enough feedback.
Okay. It's different. So nothing that the company can do anything about? Okay. Canalta, do you get the opportunity to do exit interviews, or they just don't show up?
Darwin's with me.
Who's, you,
Maybe these two, they're.
oh, okay. So, okay. So how many are you getting to do? Because I know people just sometimes don't show up, right?
I think you had a few, I've had a few.
We do them all for our full-time employees, but
Casuals.
None of the casuals.
Just all the time.
No.
Okay. So yeah, it's important to know why people stay and why people leave. That's the first thing you want to do when you're looking at retention and things. Is there something we can improve? So you want to look at that. Are we meeting their needs? So I guess if I looked at something like a casual position, is it possible to offer more hours, or are you bound in by certain rules that your casuals can only have so many? You guys are still in your learning curve, aren't you?
In our case, it's purely event driven, so we just can't create hours unless we're
Right.
events, right?
Yeah.
You gotta let everyone go at the end of the season, basically, and then rehire them when the next part starts, so it's kind of, when people grow up and
Yeah.
keep learning person.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody is anybody having a high turnover right now?
We have the new urban women's shelter, and we have the people come in for like just graduate social work frontline positions. Then they leave us for more higher roles.
Yes. Yeah, and I think Ready Enterprise can reflect on that one, where you bring the students in and you hire them, and then they're just building their career, and that's what we talked about. So that's there. So yeah, you want to do the exit interviews. So again, you want to increase the management effectiveness. So what's the environment like? What's the social workplace? Is it fun? Are people enjoying it? Are they communicating often? And is it part of their business success? So again, that talks about meeting the needs. And you do have a handout here on that, where on one side, there's a strategy, and then an action you might want to take. So knowing where, why they leave, why they stay. If you're not doing the exit interviews and you're having high turnovers, you want to do that, but you might want to also find out why they stay. If somebody's been there for a long time, what is it that entices you?
We do stay interviews every 2 years.
Every 2 years? Okay, and what are some of the questions or results you've gotten from that?
A lot of it was good because we changed the annual performance process because some people felt it was stagnant. And so we now do it's more work for the managers because we now do monthly short reviews. And then the annual review is just the look back against objectives set for the year. But it made people happy, so.
Yeah, absolutely. I do the 5 functions of a team, and one of them is to do 3-month or shorter goal setting and stuff, because I know myself for 15 years I did the same process on a performance appraisal. 15 years it said the same thing, and 14 years and 295 days is when I'd pull it out and go, did I do this? So there is some good to planting it, but having that action plan more often meets the needs, and people tend to feel more valued. So yeah, that's a really good idea. Why do you stay here, and then bringing that in? Okay, so strategy 2 is having the building the environment again. What's the social environment like? So does anyone here need to work on their environment? Is it meeting the staff's need, or do you find that that's an issue?
I think in my branches, we have 2 branches in Medicine Hat, and one is very, very social. I love, anytime I'm in that branch, I love how social everybody is. If they don't have clients, they're out visiting and chatting and communicating and collaborating. My branch, if you walk into the branch, you'll see people up front, but all the people in the offices are hiding in the offices. And so I'll wander out just because I need a break, and I can't find anybody to visit because they're all hiding in their offices. And we took a bus to Lethbridge for a gala last night, and my branch that I work out of all sat in front and kind of kept themselves quietly. And the other branch, and I sat with them because I'm friends with a couple of those people. We all sat in the back, and we were chatting, visiting, and playing musical chairs, and just very different personalities.
Yeah, and now I'm going to ask you this. As I see you sitting at this very quiet table, yeah, I'm wondering if she's typed right. Because you seem very bubbly, outgoing.
I would classify myself, and my husband would classify me as a chameleon. You can pretty much drop me in any situation, and I can find a way to fit in. The problem is I love to learn, I'm very curious, I love to read. I would be a permanent student if they would allow me to.
Okay. Yeah, and that's what I mean about getting to know yourself, right? Because obviously in the industry that you're working in, if you have more of that quiet environment, you may want to look at getting to that other one, right? Because yeah, I see you as very social.
I applied for the role at the other branch, and the person in my role at the current branch had asked to move to the other branch for whatever reason she asked. So when I applied for the role, it was supposed to be here, and when I accepted the role, it was here. And I did hesitate before taking it for that
Okay.
very reason.
Okay. So what the rest of you, is there anything in your environment that you can change? Do you have power to change?
Or would people ask the people who have the power to make those changes?
Yes.
Sometimes people would say, well, I really love it, yes, but I don't know who to ask, or I don't know if that would be okay to ask that.
Good point.
You know, and so is there permission to change things up in the environment?
Right. And having people in the right location. Having people that are noisy in the same area and having people who are very quiet in the same area, that can be really huge. I mean, how I wouldn't know though, because I'm the noisy one. So, so I have no idea what it's like to really want peace and quiet and work next to me. I'm gonna guess it's not pleasant. So I actually don't have an office, I just have a balcony. So I wouldn't sit in an office anyway. Okay, so going on to the next one. 3 is building engagement and sense of community. So again, oh, that's the same slide, sorry. 4, the health and safety priorities. I know in our office that's not a huge issue. Anybody have a lot to do with the health and safety industry? Yeah, that's pretty tough, isn't it? Especially when you're training so many.
Right. Well, and ours is a little different because it's more about client safety and that. It's not so much the physical workplace.
Right. So a lot of that. So people want to feel safe. Would you say that after your training, most of your employees do feel safe? Yeah. Yeah, because you're dealing with many unknowns, right?
Yeah.
Right from, I'm going to guess that the Dolly Parton concert would be very different than the Marilyn Manson. Just a guess, not that I know who Marilyn Manson is, but yeah, so that's something, you know, they want to, and conduct regular audits, and knowing that they're safe, or as well as benefits. Benefits are really huge right now, and that's something we brought into our company, is the benefit package. I think that's big, and again, maybe that's generational. I'm not sure, because in my 20s, if they'd have said to me, I'll give you benefits, or yeah, I'd have been like, I'll take the money, right? Now today, it's like, I'll take the benefit package. And I think our healthcare system's changed so much as well that it's become more important, definitely. So the more you can offer that, the better that can be. This one I think is huge. So actually, I'm gonna have you go into your group and actually talk about this, because, and actually we deal with part of this. So I'm gonna ask the one that says generational difference activity, but the work balance life, it's day and night. My son just had he's 34, I think, somewhere in there. Not good with numbers. And he just became a parent. He's parenting his nephew of a baby. And work balance life is what it's all about for him. He will be taking the maternity leave. They both took it at first to be home together. They want to go to the hockey games. They want to do all that stuff. He was a tile setter, and his ideal job was working for the school board, because the consistency, the hours, having that day off. So it's really important to that generation to have that work balance life. It's very different. As we said, the older worker just works. So in the activity, I want you to see what the differences are in those values, and this would be one of them, definitely. I made the joke that in my day when a child was born, the man went out and got the cigars and got drunk. Yeah, today they're in the hospital, they're there for days, they're involved. You go to the hockey arena, it's all like that. So this is a huge one. What is it that you need to offer to retain the younger generation? What are the things that's going to keep them in your environment versus the older one? The other thing is the retired people. How many of you have people close to retirement? So what's your policy for that? Can they cut back to casual? Yours, Ken?
Well, they can do a pre-retirement, so it's 2 years at a 60% work schedule. So, but it's set, and they have to have their set date. They can't change it. They have to have their date set.
So then they're tied in. Okay, how about the rest of you?
But nobody takes it, to be honest.
Nobody?
Out here, out east, everybody did, but here they don't. So there's definitely differences.
So why do you think they're not taking it here?
There's a different mentality I'm finding, that it's that old school mindset. We have a really older workforce in the department that I'm in now, and I think it's just that carrying through that it's all about work, they don't take, a lot of times some people don't take their vacation, like it's just that mindset, whereas I was with a different agency before, and it was a younger workforce, and all of that stuff was very important. Like it's just a different.
Oh, interesting. Okay, how many of the rest of you are dealing with retirement?
Our organization handles it very, very well. You have all sorts of options for reduced work schedule, shared work, all sorts of things like that, and you can pick and choose how you do it. And if you get to the point where you're going to retire and you want to stay on, great.
Okay, so
That's one of the things we do really well at, is this work-life balance, the scheduling. If I call my boss and say, hey, my kid's sick today, I'm mobile, I can work from home. She says, great, have fun, let me know how they're feeling. You know, there's no, and I've worked in a job where my daughter was really sick the first year I went back to work, and I kept taking time off, and my boss basically came to me and told me my job was in jeopardy. What am I supposed to do? There's no one else to do this.
yeah, that's exactly the old school how we thought. How many of you have the older worker though that the retirement's going to become an issue soon? Put your hand up so I can see if you actually do. Okay, not very many of you then.
Me?
Yeah, well I told her she has a perfect retirement job. And I'm sure she lied to me about her age when we started business. Yeah, she can come in and work as much as she wants, take as much responsibility as she wants. And actually, our manager is going to be 71. Yeah, 71 is our manager's age. And I don't know if you guys are finding this too, but there is a common theme that I've been hearing lately in Medicine Hat is like the older workers getting hired again. Yeah, the paving guy hired a 67-year-old the other day. So it is a trend. So maybe just go and put your heads together. And I've got you in like-minded thinking, I'm hoping. That's what I want you to experience, that you think alike. So in your like-minded thinking group, what is it that you're going to need to do? What's different for or that you're willing to do for the younger generation and for the retired? Just have a discussion about that. I think this is probably the biggest difference when we see it on both ends, the young and the older worker, definitely. Again, the extended leaves work or the assistant program helping the employees through. What we've done is basically we have a really slow summer all the time, and that's just been traditional in our industry. So we've cut back some hours. We give Friday afternoons off. I think everybody's enjoying that. We really try to keep our model of keeping all the staff, but really changing up the hours. So we're already looking at next year, and one of the things we're looking at is maybe asking some of our senior staff if they want to take 2, 3, 4 weeks off in the summer. I mean, of course, you know, they'll only get their paid weeks, but a lot of them are older workers and maybe are financially set where they would love to take 6 weeks off in the summer. And that would help our company remain stable and their employment remain stable. So, you know, we've got a lot of flexibilities because we're not bound by somebody over top of us. However, again, it's what's best for the company is trying to get those hours and keeping our people that are good. So, number 6, oh, that didn't work. Invest in training and employee development. Again, not everybody wants it. But the people that are asking for it, if you're not giving them their training or what they need, they're going to find it somewhere else. Now, as I don't know how many of you here applied for the Alberta Job Grant. Did anybody apply for that? You guys did? Yeah, I mean, they pay 2/3 of your costs of the actual training, not your hotels and stuff. That's a really good opportunity for companies who are financially not enabled to pay for the whole thing. So again, find out what's important to them. Maybe set out a limit, you know, every year and let them decide what they're interested in and what's going to value the company. So invest in them as well. And again, investing in them can be teaching them new skills. And again, that's what we're doing now. With 2 people looking to change how they work, we need those spots filled, and we're going to try to fill those internally, that skill. Offer competitive compensation and be creative in your award system. It's interesting because where is table 2? Who's two? You guys. Okay, you've walked into work this morning and you've got there and you're in your desk and I walk in and say, take the day off. What are you guys gonna do? What did you say, freak? Yeah, exactly. Now, I don't know if there's anybody in this room like me, my type, I'm right here. If they said take the day off, I wouldn't even ask why. I'd say, okay, see you tomorrow, bye. And I would walk out the door and I wouldn't even care why. So, yeah, having employees get the same thing, not good. I remember one time I was getting an award for my manager, and just in passing, he brings out one of those books with all those inspirational posters and plaques, and he's like, so what do you think of this? And I went, that's just a bunch of crap. In the staff meeting, they presented me with one. I'm like, oh no, did I say that? so you gotta watch. So it is very different for everybody. And again, that comes down to asking, get to know them, look at their type and what's important to them. And the last one is recognize achievement. So one of the questions on that sheet I gave you for the employees, have you been told in the week you've done a good job? The first person I gave it to disagreed. She had not been told that. And I went, really? So on the way out the door that night, I said to her, good job today. But I know that is my weakness. I know that I need to work on acknowledging that they're doing a good job. Because I don't need that, but I need to do it. And again, I'm still that old school. No news is good news.
Peggy, one of the things that we instituted was an accountability thing where we asked our placement guy to tell us every week, at the end of every week, what did you achieve? And at first it was so, oh my goodness, I don't think I'm comfortable with this. No, I just want to know, how many jobs did you find? Well, now this guy is, so excited about, my goodness, we found 7 jobs. Now we found more. The reporting, the being able to say, I did this. So sometimes people need a chance to shine the light on themselves and say, look at the great job I did, especially when they've got managers that don't. And so just providing that opportunity to show your outputs and your outcomes and your achievements as a matter of how people are recognized, I think is a good thing.
I think it went really well, and now he's excited. So basically, on every Friday, he would send out the blast with a lot of push, and to a point that he would miss. And then Pam would remind him, and then consistently started, then maybe missed once more, and since then, he's on it. He's putting it on Twitter, Facebook, he's loving it, and doing really a great job. Personally, accountability for me is hugely important. If you want something done, if you don't give me a deadline, you're not ever getting it. It's just not gonna happen. So, and that, for me, is also a reward though, is that completion. So again, what you need to realize for retention is that what one person likes, somebody else does not. It needs to be really different. So companies have their own cultures. And when I look at the culture of the people who work with disabilities, I've done a lot of work with that industry. There's a high amount of people who need the rewards and recognition. That's really important to them. When I get out and I go to companies like Methanex or industrial companies, the culture is very different. They don't want that reward system. It's not important to them. So most of us, for good reason, have a mix of people. So our retention and our reward systems cannot be one way because they're not going to work. Just like giving these guys the day off. They would just think that would be insane. People of my type would just run out the door and we think nothing of it. It'd be like, I got the best boss in the whole world. And I used to say that, by the way. So, okay, just in closing, there are many things you can do to retain them, understand what they need and value, and it's very different again. And I'll tell you what, when I started doing this for a living, and over the 23 years, when I ask people what they value, most people cannot answer me. Just like I asked you guys, what was your greatness? What's your skill? Most of you could not answer that question. That is not uncommon because we don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. We just do. So again, you want to be able to recognize, what am I good at? What do I value? What do I need? And I know myself really well now. I need action. I need change. I need variety. I need humor. I need to laugh. I love to laugh. You know, I went to an interview at the college once and they asked me my philosophy of adult education. I went, fun. And they're all looking at me, and I'm like, did I misunderstand the question? No, but I didn't get the job. It was too short and sweet. So again, look at the generational differences, recognize the values are different, build an environment of open and honest communication. And I think that one's really important to me. I want my staff to be able to say what's working, what's not working, and not feel like they can't do that. You know, I may not have the power, I may need to redirect them to somebody else to make that change, but I want people to feel like they can communicate. Okay, and that brings us to the end of Rhonda's session. Wasn't she great? Yeah. Okay, Chris?
No, I was just going to say, it might be a good opportunity for people, especially too, if you haven't experienced any sort of the psychometrics and going through some of these testing and stuff like this. If you've got questions about the Myers-Briggs test here, you've got an expert here to ask, right? So when people are saying, they kind of go through it, you know, geez, I'm not really sure. Why does it come up this way? Or what is this like?
Yeah.
Right? And now you're all sitting at the tables with like-minded people in this side here. It's a
Yes.
good opportunity to ask some questions, right? So if you've had a chance to take a look at your information, why not take the opportunity to ask the question? Right? Does anybody have a particular question about this?
I do. How many of you have done it within your company? 1, 2. Okay. So I have somebody back there who does it fairly regular. Could you speak on the differences it's made in your industry?
So within the chamber, it's been hugely beneficial because it takes away the frustration in the workplace in terms of how different people work and how they respond and how they communicate with one another. Obviously, the different personalities communicate differently, and oftentimes as individuals, we communicate with others the way we expect to be communicated with. And what it really allows you to do, once you really understand your type in Myers-Briggs, and if you get the workbook, I really highly encourage everybody to actually go with it with their teams and go through the workbooks, because not only can you identify your type and understand your type, but the workbook provides the information on all of your colleagues' types. So it will tell you how to communicate with them, how they respond to stress and conflict. And so it's really built a cohesiveness within our workplace, and a greater understanding of the different personalities, which, you know, regardless of the situation, whether you're working on a team project or just the day-to-day activities, it truly is a beneficial tool. So we do True Colors, we've done Myers-Briggs, we've done work style assessments. All of those tools have been hugely valuable. And it does make a difference. You need to do it as a team.
Yes.
Because for one person to understand their type doesn't provide the cohesiveness that you need, because each person needs to understand the dynamics of the others.
Yeah, and I do highly recommend the simple tool first, which isn't scientific, and I do push you to try to fit into this chart, and I'm usually successful at getting there. But colors, you can talk colors. That's the thing, and it's fun. They're both fun and they're both interactive, but it's much easier to do the color language first and then graduate to this. Generally, you're not going to look across the room and go, oh, you're an ESTP, but you're going to go, oh, I think you're orange. So that's the difference. So I know for myself, it's made my career. There's no doubt. I needed to learn that I could only say 50% of what I think. You know, growing up, people would say to me, why do you say everything you think? And I thought, well, that is such a stupid statement. Doesn't everybody say what they think? And that's when you know your type. The minute you go, well, doesn't everybody? Oh, they don't? So you'd be surprised. I only say half of what I think. Now I've learned, and I said a lot.
Now you got to worry about what the other 50% was, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The one nice thing about going through these types of tests are, and you mentioned it earlier in your presentation, is the idea about really knowing yourself. Because once you know yourself, it's a lot easier then as you're starting to put together a team and looking at the people that are there. If you know your own strengths and you really understand your weaknesses, having the right people come in to help and support you on the other side is invaluable. But you're right when you mentioned it earlier. There's so many companies that put together, and all it is that everybody wants to hire like. I'm like this, I'm like this, I'm like this, so what do I want to do? I want to hire people that are exactly like me, because I think it's going to work better, and we're all going to hold hands and sing Kumbaya, and everything will be good. And people don't understand that for a successful business to be there, it's really about finding those people that are going to be there to help and support you as you go through the process.
Right,
So
and
very important.
generally the people that you're not going to pick to have a coffee with because you don't have a lot in common. You know, again, I need the detail person. I want, Pam, and that's one thing Pam and I both need, is somebody to take care of the details. We're both movers, we're going, we're doing. She's problem solving, I'm in the action mode. So, you know, we just talked about this. That person we hire needs to be able to almost be our brain. Oh, here's what you need. And we've had that over the years. So when you've had that, you're pretty spoiled. You know, you're walking out the door and they're handing you the papers you need. It's like, oh yeah, I need these, I know. So, and I think we've got somebody really grooming themselves that wants to be that in our company.
I think communicating to your team as much as you're able to what is happening. You know, somebody said, but why don't you just say what it is you want in the job description, for one thing. Yeah, and why don't we just tell people what you know, I mean, we have these strategic plans. What used to frustrate me a lot in a big organization, we do this strategic planning, we'd set all these goals, and then we'd come back a year later and we'd say, what happened about that? Huh? And so it's much simpler. Our strategic plan is we want to keep working. Like, that's the first thing. And we tell people, you know what, if we don't have these contracts and if our customers aren't satisfied, we won't have any money, none of us will have jobs. It's pretty fundamental. And so, beyond, I mean, we can have all sorts of strategic plans, but if I sit down with the people and I say, look guys, we're really working to get these numbers up, because everybody says, okay then, what can I do to help? And I think just being open, honest, transparent, that's the thing that's such a thrill, I think. And sometimes jobs, we talked about bureaucracy and hierarchy, sometimes it's not allowed, but sometimes you have to find a way to do it anyway. So, I don't know what that looks like in your organizations, but I think once you can get to that, it's so much easier.
And I would say that I did a whole session on retention with Palliser Economical Partnership, and that's one of the complaints that employees definitely have, is not knowing what's going on. And you just talked about, I don't know if I'm gonna have a job next week. You know, again, when our hours, when we'd slow down, we informed them, this is what's happening, this is what we're working to do. And basically we pulled ourselves out this summer, and she had a wonderful retirement summer, and I was able to do construction all summer. So it worked well, but we put our staff in the role of getting the paychecks, you know, to keep them on, because in, let's say in 3-4 months when we're running, and if we don't have those people anymore, then we're not prepared to grow again. And we know it's just a matter of the season. And that's kind of you guys, it's a seasonal thing. So yeah, being able to meet the need of the people that want to work for you. And that's what my goal's always been, is to have people come into our company and say, I want to work here. And I'd say we hear that often. Yeah, and I used to tell people when I had my job doing this for another company, I said, I had the best job in the whole world. And my husband goes, yeah, she does. But I also carved out my career and knew who I was. And that's the key. So I started carving out my career to match my personality. And I was told in this city I would never be doing this. I went to every agency when I was in college and said I wanted to do this, and every one of them told me I would never be doing it. They were wrong. Here I am.
Excellent. So that's good. Questions for Peggy and Len before we get into some cleanup mode stuff here at the end? Anybody else? Free advice. Think about it from this point of view. Where else are you going to find experts like this standing in front of you at work, right? You got the questions. Now's the time to ask them.
Yeah, I have a question. What do you do with someone who is a blue and who uses it as an excuse to just not play nicely with others because they're not treating them like the blue they are?
Okay, well that's interesting, because generally they're a very nice person, right? I never allow it as an excuse. It's not. Type is never an excuse for bad behavior. It's just the opposite. Now that I realize that my words are offensive, like my Myers-Briggs says, my words offend people, not because I don't care, but because I base my decision on logic, then it's up to me to step back. So I would be challenging them on their behavior and saying, okay, is this an acceptable behavior? I would just, again, put it on the table. Okay, anybody who uses it, all the years I've done this, I had one company turn it into a weapon. That wasn't great. But I still have companies now that I go in there probably every 5 years, and any new employees they get, they come to the one-on-one, which isn't as good, but they're still doing it. They're still using it. But it's never an excuse for bad behavior. I would stop that real quick. And again, you know, this handout's really good. And it's got what strengths, weaknesses, what causes problems. Like, go through that with them and say, so what are the issues? So can you give me an actual behavior that you're dealing with? Like, what is the behavior? Like, I'm blue, so I get to...
It's more that the person who's giving her work is a green. Therefore, it's very, this is what you got to do. We want you to do this program, make these changes, just facts. Because
Right.
they deal with facts. Whereas she wants them to say, how are you? Did you have a nice night last night? What did you watch on TV? And the green
It's
doesn't
true.
give it, doesn't care about that.
Sure, and that becomes both of their jobs, and I think that's what Lisa was talking about too. That becomes a responsibility of the two people to realize that. Now, ideally, if you don't need to put opposites together day to day, that's the best solution. However, sometimes that's not possible, right? So, yeah, sit them both down and do you have this resource?
We've got the older papers that we used when we sent them on courses.
Okay,
Yeah.
that should have a lot of that in there too, and say, okay, so here's our issue. Now, both of you need to close that gap. Because absolutely, like, you know, one day I was doing a dental office and the girl comes into work, the blue, and the morning's gone just terrible. Her dog was sick, the car didn't work, her tire went flat. So the green walks in and goes, and she's coming in, she's all upset. He goes, well, I fixed your computer. And she starts crying. He goes, what? I thought you'd be happy. Rather than him just, well, how are you? And taking that moment to make her into a human, he just thought the computer being fixed would make her happy, but it didn't. So having the conversations, you know, and recognizing the differences, definitely. So I will give you an example of the 4 coming in, just using the 4 colors. So the gold consistently comes in early to work because they need to plan to get ahead. In come the blues. Harmony is their most important value. So how's the weekend? How's the kids? How's grandma doing? You guys ready for the week? You all ready to go? So they have the harmony. Golds look at their watch and go, well, at least they came in early. The green comes in, maybe grunts good morning, maybe not, goes to their office, closes the door because they got things on their head. The blue's like, what's the matter? The green's like, nothing unless you keep asking me that. 1 minute to work time, the orange runs in the door and people are like, you could have came earlier, and the orange is like, why? What did I miss? Like, what would you guys do here before it's time to start work? So we do what works for us without realizing we're irritating other people. We don't know that until we do something like this. You know, I thought everybody just loved me. No, I didn't. But I didn't know why they didn't love me. I knew they didn't, but I didn't know why. And now I realize the introvert, extrovert, over talking, not giving people their space. So many things that we can grow and just work together better. Okay.
Sounds good. Any other questions? Okay, it's homework time then on